And you touched earlier on learning budgets, and this is a bit of a pet peeve of mine. If you manage people, they come to you and they say, "I want to grow, I want to learn," and you say, "Well, there's £2,000 or dollars or whatever it is sat there on a learning budget. Go use it." And then I think there are two different types of people, and I'm being very broad here, but there's a bunch of people who just don't use it and then moan that they're not
Yeah.
growing, and there's another bunch of people who rinse it and they go
Yeah.
on any course they can. They get to travel the budget and they spend their money, but it's not really something which helps them. What's the secret? What should somebody do to get the most out of their budget without wasting it?
So I think finding ways that help you learn. And what I mean by that is help you learn. What are the ways you take things in? You touched on the idea of courses. I honestly cannot think of many worse things than sitting in a course for 3 days when maybe
Yeah.
2 hours of it is particularly useful and I could have gone at my own pace. I'm not very good at going the pace of someone who's dictating that. I want to be able to jump ahead. I want to be able to ask questions and jump around, which is why I love that learning through doing, following self-paced courses, trying things out myself, setting out goals to build things and often failing, not getting and going, actually, this is too hard from there.
Yeah.
So working out where you can get from that. My favorite way of learning is going to a conference because I can go and listen to different sessions. I can listen to what different people say, but I can also chat to people as well, whether it's the speakers, whether it's other people learning, even the vendors. Go and speak to not just about their product, but about the kind of world that they're in within that. You get to hear so much, and I come away very energized from going to conferences because it's kind of inspired different ways of thinking about it, things I hadn't thought about before as well. And that should come as part of your learning budget too. So
Yeah.
picking up different ways of doing that learning and finding what works for you, I think is really important too.
And I think it's ever more important in these days, post lockdown. We're still in a bit of a semi lockdown where people aren't collecting together perhaps as much as they used to. But like you say, getting into a room with great speakers, with other people who are there attending, talking to other vendors, it's super interesting. What's the impact on someone? So we've talked about somebody who maybe isn't growing and they know they need to grow. If
Mm.
they step in and start to do some self-learning and they start to share, what's the impact on them? What do they feel? What do they get out of it?
Two things. You'll feel you're stretching and uh, for a while, you'll be shouting into the void. You'll be putting content out there. You'll be sharing it. And there may be one bloke who replies every now and
Yeah.
then. But then you'll get that one person going, thank you. I've been trying to
Yeah.
solve this for ages. And you've just given me the trigger towards get to that. I can remember one of the early blog posts I did on that. Or yeah, one of my other favorite blog posts where I got some from Microsoft's going, you've caused a bit of a panic with the product group around this one. And it was a good panic because they realized something was wrong within there. But you suddenly go, oh, I've made an impact. I've
Yeah.
helped people from that. And you get that kind of rosy feeling on there because what you want is that warm feeling, that benefit that you've helped people from there. And it gets kind of addictive. You start to want to get more of that. You start sharing more. You start picking up other ideas from there and you start getting known for a subject. And that kind of takes you down that route. It may be that that was your goal. That's exactly what you were hoping to learn and be, whether it's kind of maybe moving from a support role into more of a developer or architect or area with that. Maybe you're moving into marketing and you're creating content there, but you're starting to build towards that world. And it's a certain element of that fake it until you make it. Start
Mm.
acting as if you're the expert in this area, and people start to see that, start to recognize you as there. You work on something that people see. People see you as more of an expert in that. I
Mm.
love
And
a
I
guy.
know, I know,
Sure.
I know this is not about me, but I would like to share one story which I think drives straight into what you're talking about. Back in 2009, I'd been made redundant, and I was like, "What shall I do?" And I picked up an open source PHP framework, mostly to teach myself how to code and how to build things. And I was contributing to the help forum. People would say, "How do I do this?" And I'd say, "Well, you try that," and provide some answers. I remember it still, 3rd of January 2009, my phone rang and it was from America. And this company picked up the phone and spoke to me, and they said, "You seem to know what you're talking about." And it was an American TV company, a very big, famous show at the time. They said, "We've got an e-commerce site, and we've had two big companies working on it, and they've failed. We launch in a week. Can you get it working?" And I went, "Yeah, of course I can," like you do. But I got a year's worth of work out of that. Just
Yeah.
exactly as you described, which is, you know, looking like, I mean, I guess I did know what I was doing, but actually showing that I knew what I was doing and putting it out there.
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember Gary Trinder. So he was my co-host on a former podcast I did. Used to work with him, and he did a lot of open source stuff. And he got chatting with the person doing this, got more involved, became one of the co-contributor, not words, the kind of owners of the repository, and they started managing things. So he went from kind of contributing to it to helping look at other contributions. And ultimately, it kind of led him to getting a role within Microsoft. He ended up sort of moving over to that developer relations world. And now basically his job is doing that. It is
Yeah.
kind of building up cool code that other people can see. And I love seeing how happy he is still from doing that. He's going to be listening to this and laughing, going, "Yeah, not today." But
Yeah.
generally, he's seeing the joy, and he has changed what he's been doing. It's exactly what he wants,
Mm.
and he's kind of pulled together almost what he was doing for a hobby, and now it's his role, it's his job
It's
within there.
paying the
And
wages. Yeah, exactly.
yeah,